Here we go! Here we go! Here we go!
We're gonna have a fiery Sterling today.
Well, no, you just have a big old air horn, and anytime a Packers fan tries to talk, you just hit the button and drown them out. Like, no, I can't hear you. Go Bears.
It's basically the la 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 la.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You don't even have to live there. You can do it from here. Just remote control everything. Yeah, I'm pissed off, man. Fuck the NFL at this point.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the OneIQ Football Talk podcast, and it is definitely a little bit of a sleepy edition between Sterling and myself. But yeah, it is going to be an interesting conversation this week. Definitely not going to be as long of a discussion as we had last week, but one of the things that we did discuss about last week that we thought could have happened about 2 hours after we finished the recording. But that is going to be something that we will talk about. First off, Sterling, how you doing, my friend?
Doing all right. As you said, a little bit sleepy, a little bit tired. It was a awkward long week, late nights, and just nasty weather. So driving conditions have been horrible. It's third winter here where we're at. So fucking just brutal, man.
Yeah, one of the things that I really dislike about living in Canada is you get the one winter, then you get the second winter, you get the third winter, and the chances of us getting a fourth winter probably going to happen, and you just sit back going, please end for the love of God. But we're not here to drown your sorrows with our problems. Let's talk about football, my friend. And again, as I alluded to right at the start, we talked a lot last week. There was a 2.5 hour. Like that was just one of those things where we just kept going. It was a lot of fun. I know both of us really enjoyed it, but one of the main conversations that we did have was the conversation of Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears and where is he ultimately going to get traded. And one of the conversations that we had was to your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
And lo and behold, 2 hours after we finish our recording, ding ding, the Chicago Bears have traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I remember I sent you a message and you went, I don't believe you until everything is confirmed. I sent you a Twitter, you're like, nope, still not good enough. We had that little fun banter, but ultimately It was for Justin Fields goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 2025 sixth-round pick with the condition that it could potentially turn into a fourth-round pick due to the amount of playtime. I think he has to play 51% of the snaps this year for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of us are happy with this trade for various different reasons. You're happy because you thought it was potentially going to be that third-round pick that you guys picked up for Kenny Pickett. And I'm happy because as a Chicago Bears fan, I'm just happy this entire saga of, is it going to be Justin? Is it going to be Caleb? Is finally over. We can sit down. We can rest. We know where Justin Fields is going to go. And yeah, I'm just happy because I just don't have to deal with the stupidity of my organization's fan base.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is great for the Bears because they finally just closed the book on the Justin Fields era, and they go, look, no more speculation. Caleb Williams is the guy next year. The number one pick has been made when that trade went through. And so that's great for your Bears because they can now start focusing on what they want to do with that ninth pick. And excellent move for the Steelers because they now have a talented young quarterback that can come in and sit for a year and learn what Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith is going to expect for him going forward after Russell Wilson completes his single-year stint here in Pittsburgh. And as we discussed, we've mentioned we don't like speculating injuries, but Russell Wilson is old. You never know what can happen. In the AFC North, it is very physical football, and it could get ugly quickly, so who knows what'll happen. But I think the fact that Omar Khan was able to flip Rudolph, Pickett, and Trubisky for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and only had to pay $1.2 million and a 6th round draft pick for it, that's a pretty good swing in my opinion.
Yeah. And one of the big discussions that we had that took up a nice little chunk of that pod was my concern with the Steelers offense and the way that they're going to progress, because it's one of those things where, yeah, sure, they got Russell Wilson and he should theoretically be better than what we saw from last year's quarterback or the last 2 or 3 years of quarterback play. But, you know, it still necessarily might not be that, because we've seen Russell Wilson just kind of take his career and go, yeah. He had a little bit of a blip back up this year, but it wasn't much more. And, you know, the question is, okay, you have a 35-year-old Russell Wilson. You know, 1 year might be good enough, but if you go into the playoffs and win a playoff game, hooray, you won a playoff game, but, you know, you're pretty much just right back to square one. Are you going to re-sign a 36-year-old Russell Wilson at that point? Are you going to try to trade up to go draft a quarterback at that point? You're essentially just going, we are okay with playoffs, and that's about it. And, you know, I was saying to you, it was like, to me, I am not just okay with just playoffs. And, you know, if the Bears, or pardon me, if the Steelers were indeed able to go out there and find a young quarterback like Justin Fields, you know, that's going to put them up in a much better situation. But the question here is, if you have a quarterback like Justin Fields, why would you ultimately sit him behind Russell Wilson? If you think this guy is potentially going to be your quarterback of the future, and he has 3 years of playing experience, why sit him? Like, I've heard this where, you know, pretty much it was the day of the trade. It was Russell Wilson has been told that he is the starter no matter what, and it's not going to be a quarterback competition. He's going to be given the starting job, and he's going to have it until he either screws it up so badly that they have to move on from him or give Justin Fields the job. And I'm sitting back going, why? Like,
because that's Steeler football. That is the smart way to do it, honestly. Like,
but this
so
isn't
many...
a rookie quarterback, though. This is
No,
a guy.
it's
This
not.
is a guy
But-
with 38 starts in the NFL.
Yeah, and has gone through change after change of playbook, of coordinator, of coach, and he's now going through that change again. And we have the opportunity to go, okay, look, you're going to sit, you're going to watch, you're going to learn, you're going to be on the headset, you're going to see everything that we're going to be doing, you're going to learn this offense inside and out before you even have to worry about stepping on that field. And then you're going to go out there and you're already going to be a master of this playbook. And we're going to put you in the best opportunity to go out and shine instead of go out and struggle until you grasp it.
I get that, but it's one of those things where you have two quarterbacks that are both going to have to learn this new system anyways. So you're going to have Russell. You're basically saying to Russell Wilson that you are worse than the quarterback that we got, and you're going to have to learn this entire new offense at the same time that Justin Fields is going to have to learn the offense. And now, granted, Justin Fields, 25, he's had to learn 2 offenses in his 3 years of play so far, so he's going to have to learn his 3rd offense in 4 years, which is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but everyone already knew that going into this process where he was going to have to learn this offense. So why not just have him go out there as opposed to watching Russell Wilson do that?
I honestly, because I really do think it's the smarter way to do it. You know, like Russell Wilson is a 1-year bridge for the Steelers. Justin Fields, they're looking at going, okay, you're 25 now, you're going to be 26 next season. We could sign you to a 3 or 4 year deal if we think this is going to be a fruitful, you know, relationship, and keep you until you're about 30. And I think that he would then be, again, a bridge quarterback until we find our next franchise guy. Because I don't think, like, at the point Justin Fields is at and moving around, I don't think he's going to be a franchise Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback for the next 10 or 15 years. I don't think that's something that will happen because he's much more of a mobile style quarterback. And as you get towards the 30s, you start to see a drop off in that.
Significant drop off.
Exactly. I compare it to the likes of like Cordell Stewart, who we had back. That was the quarterback we had before we finally got Ben Roethlisberger. And I think that's sort of the trajectory that the Steelers are looking to take. And I think this is the better way to do it. You look at the quarterbacks that have gone into a system and had the opportunity to sit and learn and not take the field until they're older. We talked about it a couple days ago, you and I, before this stream, and Aaron Rodgers. Like, yes, he was drafted to the Green Bay Packers and he sat behind Brett Favre. You're not going to start him over Brett Favre, obviously. I know this is a different situation, but Aaron Rodgers didn't start playing until he was 25 or 26 because he learned that offense, and that was why when he came in, he was so good right away. And I think that's what we're going to see with Justin Fields, having that opportunity to become more comfortable with the system first instead of being thrown to the wolves, as I said, in a tough AFC North where you're going to have Roquan Smith and Myles Garrett and whoever the Bengals manage to put out there on defense coming at you 6 times throughout the year. He's going to have an opportunity to sit there and watch and learn and see what the tendencies for some of these guys are and figure out a way to beat them before he even has to be on the field. I think it's the brilliant way to do it. And then you've got an excellent quarterback. If the unthinkable happens and Russell Wilson does go down to injury, at least you're not going, oh fuck, we got Mitchell Trubisky we're throwing out there. You go, well, we got Justin Fields. All right, and QB1 is down. Let's put in QB 1.2.
Yeah, no, the only reason that I am skeptical with all of this is because have the Steelers made any indication that they're going to accept his 5th-year option?
No, they have not.
So, all of this being said, right now the Steelers are looking at a guy. They said, we're not going to pick up your 5th-year option. You are going to be a backup for us the entire year. There is nothing to say that the Steelers are going to be able to retain Justin Fields at the end of this year. Granted,
Nope.
if for instance, if he doesn't play, okay, we gave away a 6th-round pick for a guy that didn't work with us. But then you're right back into that same spot. The other issue that I have is, let's say they do work out a deal, they sign him to like a 2-year extension going on after this year, which I think would be acceptable. I don't think a team is going to immediately go out there and say, we're going to give you a 4-year extension just because we think you could potentially be the guy. I think a 2-year with kind of that second year being more of like an option type of year. In that instance, to me, I'm looking at it going, what happens if the Steelers team kind of has another year like they did last year, but their defense maybe not able to take that next step and take over games like what we saw from them, and let's say they have a losing season. Let's say they go 7-9 or 7-10 is what it would be now, and they decide to move on from Mike Tomlin and they move on from Arthur Smith. Now all that work that you did to get him into that system, it's null and void. It just means, okay, we're bringing in a new guy.
Yep.
And at that point, I'm just looking at it going, well, if you were worried about him trying to learn the system, why not just play him in that system?
I get that, but at the same time, I mean, okay, so let's go that route. So we play Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the starter. Russ walks. Who's our backup? Because Justin Fields has been having some injury issues the last couple of seasons as well, and it's physical in the AFC North.
There's nothing to say that you guys won't draft a quarterback to be a backup.
Well, yeah, we'll draft one, but, I mean, wouldn't you rather have Justin Fields going in to replace an injured quarterback than
I would rather have
second or
Justin
third round
Fields starting. I would rather have Justin Fields starting as opposed to Russell Wilson starting. Now, in this instance, I would rather have, if I had to have a starting quarterback and Justin Fields as a backup, yes. But in this instance, I'm looking at the starting quarterback going, I would rather Justin Fields over him anyways. And if Russ decides to walk, you draft a 3rd-round quarterback. We saw a 5th-round quarterback play really, really well this year. We saw a 3rd-round quarterback kind of play middle of the road. Hell, we've seen a 7th-round pick, the last pick in the draft, go out there. It's one of those things where, is it ideal? No, but hell, the Chicago Bears this season, they had Justin Fields as their starter, and they had an undrafted Div 2 rookie as their backup, and he went out there and won games. So, for me, I look at that and I go, I would rather have Justin Fields and a rookie quarterback, because at least that way you're going to have that.
Well, as you said, though, that's not ideal. Russell Wilson as a starter with Justin Fields as a backup, that is ideal. And you can still draft that quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round and have him be that 3rd quarterback. So there's nothing stopping them from still having that option and having that depth in the quarterback room. As most teams do now that the league allows you to dress 3. Yep. And
you're going to need a 3rd quarterback anyways.
Exactly. And so that's still going to happen. But, if this had happened in a different order, like had the trade for Justin Fields happened first, then yes, Justin Fields would be the starter. But the Pittsburgh Steelers went out there, they made a commitment to a guy, and he's the starter. Like that's just the fact of it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers will honor that, and I don't see anything wrong with that. If you don't, then down the road 2 years from now, when we're like, okay, we need to fill this position, we need to bring a guy in.
I get what you're saying, as you want to be an organization that keeps their word when you say there's a starter, for sure. But the fact that you're not even going to allow Justin Fields to potentially compete for it in training camp.
Well, there's going to be a competition. Like you're going to... It's not like it's going to be, okay, Russell Wilson, you're starting all the preseason games. Russell Wilson, you're doing all the team 1 reps in training camp and stuff. There will still be competition, because we want both of those guys pushing each other to be better. It's just, you're going in there going, okay, Russell Wilson will be QB1 in week 1. That is all that this means, that Russell Wilson is our starter, is week 1, he is QB1. That doesn't dictate anything for week 2 and beyond. It's simply, he's going to be the guy out there in week 1. And I think that's the best way to go about it in this situation. It is the smartest way, because we've seen what happens to Justin Fields when he is just thrown into a new system. He struggles. That's why, like, what is his overall record sitting at right now? Like, it's not great.
QB record is irrelevant. Like, that is an irrelevant quarterback stat, because that's a team thing.
It is, but at the same time, it's just...
You can't use that as an argument.
Well, I still think this is the smartest, best way to go about it.
Kenny Pickett has a better win-to-loss record than Justin Fields. Who would you rather have, Kenny Pickett or Justin Fields?
Justin Fields. But, I mean, that's just it. Like, the alternative would have been Russell Wilson with Kenny Pickett as a backup. Like, I'd rather Russell Wilson with Justin Fields as the backup. This is a best-case scenario for the Steelers going into this season after how last season went.
I agree. The only thing that you and I are arguing on here is I think Justin Fields should be the starter as opposed to Russell Wilson.
It just creates more issues in the locker room and more issues down the road, though. Because as I said, then 2 years from now, we need to sign a veteran for a position. They're going to look at that and go, well, yeah, I could sign with you, but am I just going to get bumped out of my starter spot right away? Like, that's not worth it.
If there's a player that is playing the position better than that veteran, yes.
Yeah, but we don't know if Justin Fields is going to play that position better than Russell Wilson.
I agree, but what I'm saying is the Steelers have already shut down the idea of a quarterback competition in camp. So they've already come out and stated they are not doing that. So Justin Fields could essentially be better throughout training camp. They're going to go, Justin, he is still our backup. If he's outperforming Russell Wilson, he should be the starter.
Except that, like, that whole Russell Wilson deal, that was part of the signing agreement, was you're coming in to be the starter. 100%, hands down, no argument. And as we talked about, Justin Fields requested to go to the Steelers. Like, he requested this. The Bears had better offers from other teams, but Justin Fields said, no, I want to go to Pittsburgh. And I think he knew he was not going to be the starter. I think he's looking at this as well, going, this is my best opportunity because I can come in here, I can watch behind Russ, I can wear the headset, I can see everything that he does and see where this team wants to go.
Totally.
And I don't see why there's even an argument to say, oh, Justin Fields should be the starter week 1.
Because he's a better quarterback. But the one thing that I do want to clear up is that Fields didn't decline any of the offers. He didn't really have a choice in the matter. It was the Bears said, we have 5 teams that are trading. Here are the offers. Which one do you want to go to because we want to do right by you? And he said the Steelers. And they went, okay, yep.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, he said the Steelers knowing that he was going to be going there to not be the starter right away.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's all I'm saying is, like, it's just, I don't like the idea of just immediately moving on. Because what happens if we draft a quarterback in the 3rd round and he balls out in training camp, and then it's like, okay, well, we're going to cut Justin Fields, we're going to cut Russell Wilson, you're our starter, we got to go find another backup quarterback now.
Who said anything about cutting? I still think that if Russell Wilson...
You would have to cut Russell Wilson. That's the only way he's not the starter.
You have contract control of him for a year.
You do, but I'm sure if we were able to look at that contract, it would stipulate in there, if you don't want me starting week 1, you must release me before the season starts.
Totally. But then again, that's a $1 million... Here you go. That's legitimately the Steelers looking at him going like, oh yeah, you're okay, go away, please. We found a guy.
For them, it's not about the money, it's about the reputation.
The reputation is that they've just been middle of the park, not being able to win playoff games or do anything more.
Yeah. They've still won every year.
Yeah, but they're not making it. They're not doing anything with that. They can be like a few years ago. They were one of the best teams in the AFC.
Well,
what
10
happened?
Years ago.
No, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, where they started the season like 12-0.
Oh, Ben's last season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did they do with that year? Nothing.
They fell apart at the end of the year. Injuries caught up to them.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that this whole idea of the Steelers' reputation of just like, oh, we're this, and this, we always talk about the league being, what have you done for me lately? That's something that we always talk about. It comes from players, it comes from coaches, it comes from management, it comes from agents. What have you done for me lately? And this is one of the things that we talked about. The Steelers, we have said... I asked you, would you rather be bad for 3 years in a row, get a ton of great draft capital, and build from the ground up, or continue to kind of go down that middle-of-the-road team for the next 30 years, similar to what happened last time? And you said 30 years, and we kind of went down that path of, it kind of almost feels like they're in the first 10 years of that stage already. But like that's what the Steelers are right now. They're a team that is, okay, you're going to be competitive, you're going to win, but once you get to the playoffs, you're going to go play a game, and then you're going to go home right away.
Yep.
And if you want to go to the playoffs constantly, but, you know, just delay your golf trip a week, then sure, I guess that's fine. But I guess most guys would want to try to do more, is what I'm saying.
I mean, getting to the playoffs is the first step to getting to the Super Bowl, though. Like, yes, they've struggled in the first round of the playoffs, but that doesn't mean next year will be the same.
Totally. The point that I'm trying to make is a division rival that you guys have had in the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
Where they were a team that constantly made it to the playoffs, but they couldn't get it done. And they held, I think it was the longest playoff win drought until Joe Burrow brought them to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I agree, making it to the playoffs is the first step to getting to the Super Bowl. But we always talk about there's teams that make it to the playoffs that are really just there for eye candy.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, that's just it. Like, the Steelers have been lacking certain options when they reach the playoffs. Like, we knew last year, like, you're not going to win the Super Bowl with Mitchell Trubisky or
Kenny Pickett
at the point he was at. You know, like, you make the playoffs and you have Russell Wilson, there's a possibility. You make the playoffs, you have Justin Fields, there's a possibility.
Totally.
And so that's why I look at it. And either way, there's that possibility. And the Steelers are like, they're not going to just flip their culture for a 25-year-old guy that has struggled in his first 3 years coming over and maybe will be the next guy. Because all that does is it potentially blows it up, and then you're going, okay, now we're resetting and we screwed up. This way they just stick with what's worked for them and move forward with it.
The only thing that I would have to say is what's worked for them hasn't worked for them.
What do you mean?
Like what they've been doing over the last 10 years, what success has that led?
I mean, I'd say they've been very successful. You got to remember, the AFC has been a struggle against dynasties. It was the New England Patriots for a long time. And it wasn't just the Steelers. Nobody was beating Tom Brady.
I agree. Well, the Steelers did it. The Broncos or the Colts did it for a while. The Broncos were a team that was in there.
But even then, it was tough and it was rare to beat it. Just like the Chiefs.
Yes.
The Chiefs now, it's like it's hard to beat them. They're that dynasty now, and so that's been the issue in the AFC. You take Tom Brady out, and then you remove Patrick Mahomes. I think the Steelers make it to the Super Bowl much more often than the last 10 years.
Yeah, probably. But
right?
When was the last time the Steelers won a playoff game? We talked about, was it 2017?
Yeah.
So that is, 7 years?
Yep.
So it's been 7 years. Tom Brady has been with, So let's just say let's say it's the last 5 years that they haven't won a playoff game because of Tom Brady and such and such. But before then, it's not like they were going out there. I think it was the 1 year they faced off against the Chiefs.
One.
So it was 1 year they had to face off against the Chiefs dynasty. But other than that, they've either missed the playoffs or they got bounced in the first round.
It can happen to any team, though, man. Like, I don't
totally
understand what your argument is.
My argument is that why not? But my whole thing is just this reputation that you're saying from the Steelers organization, this, and that. Is you think of it as one way, but I'm looking at it from an outside perspective of going, that's great to have that, to always, again, you and I argued with this with Broderick Jones of not starting right away. If you're a first round pick, you best be starting for my goddamn team. Like, I look at this, whoever's going to be the 9th pick or whatever it's going to be, if you are drafted in the first round, I'm expecting you to start. And you and I have different philosophies, and I know the Steelers organization has done things their way and that, but I'm going, the standard that has been around this team, I'm thinking that you need to just take it down just a little bit, because making it to the playoffs is great. But if you make it to the playoffs and not do anything with it, you're essentially just delaying your golf trip, and you're no better than the team that has the worst overall record.
Okay, that's a little bit.
But the reason why I'm saying that, though, is because if you go to the first round of the playoffs and lose, you are no closer to making it to a Super Bowl than the team with the first overall pick. You are in a worse position than that team.
I don't know. I disagree with that.
Why?
I would not say that I'm in a worse position than the Carolina Panthers.
I would agree with you on that, because the Carolina Panthers are a mess.
Well, that's what you're saying, though.
I'm saying is that you are no closer to a championship at that point than the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, if they had the first overall pick, I would be saying they're probably putting themselves in a much better position than the Steelers are right now. But pretty much what I'm saying is that if you're just constantly getting bounced from the first round, year after year after year, you're no different than a team that didn't make the playoffs.
I mean, I would agree with that for, the teams that, barely got edged out of the playoffs. Week 18 didn't quite make the cut.
Okay, that's fair. Like
I'll agree with that. Like, if you get bounced,
They were
in
a
the
Week
wild card
18
round,
bubble, and they got
Yeah.
eliminated last week. Sure. But then again, they are still just as close to winning the Super Bowl as the team with the first overall pick in that instance. The team
Well,
that got
for this
bounced
year.
out for...
Yeah, for this year, yeah. But that's just because the Bears are in a gifted position where they've got that first overall pick.
I'm not even saying this from the Bears' perspective. I'm saying this if, for instance, like I know the Commanders for a couple years, they made the playoffs as the 7th seed, and they went and got bounced in the first round 2 years in a row. It's like, congratulations, you made it to the playoffs. Congratulations, you just got bounced immediately. You wasted everyone's time. I'm not saying the Steelers are wasting people's time. I'm just saying if you're constantly getting bounced in the first round and you're not moving forward and you're not having success, because again, having to go up against dynasties is just something that teams are going to have to deal with. You look at
100%.
you look at the Buffalo Bills, you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, you look at your Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, any other team that's in the AFC, they're looking at the Chiefs going, we have to beat them. There's already been one team to do that in the Bengals. Now it's just trying to find a way to get that and go. And we saw your Steelers beat the Patriots dynasty and get to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It is something that is entirely possible. The Steelers during that time were also winning playoff games consistently and going to the AFC Championship game. I'm just saying that the last 7 years of constantly being either bounced from the first round or not making it to the playoffs, it's essentially you're just delaying your offseason a week for nothing.
Well, yeah. It's a tough league. You can't expect to be in the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah, but the goal is to at least try to get closer and closer to the Super Bowl, but you're not getting there.
It is. And it hasn't happened the last few years. We've had struggles at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
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 And so we, presumably have fixed that now.
Hopefully.
That's the hope.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the hope. Exactly.
You and I aren't arguing about the QB situation. We're just arguing about the way that people view this team, and it's going back to the veteran of saying, oh, well, I might not have gotten my spot because they said that to Russell Wilson. I'm just going, I don't think the view of the Steelers is necessarily as high around the league as what you're necessarily putting it towards to be. Because again, I still think a lot of people want to go play for Mike Tomlin and have that respect. But I'm just saying a lot of people are looking at the Steelers team going, they're a team that is going to be a 500 or above record. But they're not really going to do something more. I feel that there's probably more players that are looking towards the Bengals and the Ravens as they would towards the Steelers.
Like to sign there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very possible. And it's a competitive division for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't get what the argument is. Like, yeah, we've struggled in the playoffs. Lots of teams have. Look at the Baltimore Ravens. They struggle every year as well in the playoffs.
They've won games in the playoffs.
They've won games in the playoffs, but they haven't won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. But they're winning games. They're winning games in the playoffs.
But it's the same thing. Like, if you get bounced in the wild card round or in the division round, it's the same thing. You're delaying the inevitable, and you're just getting a later draft pick.
Yes.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is if you're constantly getting bounced in the wild card round,
Mm-hmm.
or not making it to the playoffs, you're essentially, like, if you can go out there and win a playoff game, you're just getting yourself closer to that point.
Yeah.
But just
And
constantly going to the wild card and then immediately leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not progressing. You're just staying in this middle ground of mediocrity.
Well, yeah, you're not progressing, but you're also not regressing. Like, that's just it. Like, they keep getting to that point, and they just haven't found the piece to get them over that next hurdle. That's all it is. They're just trying to find that piece, rather than regress.
What has been the thing that has been holding them back?
Since Roethlisberger left, it was quarterback.
Okay.
Was very much. Prior to that, it was coaching.
You had a coach that stayed on for 3.5 years, though. that could have been solved a lot sooner.
Matt Canada. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it definitely could have been solved. Like we've agreed on that
Yeah.
time in and time out that there's been issues in the management and coaching of decision making. You know, that's been an issue there for probably the last 8 years. And that would probably explain a lot of the 7 years in a row of playoff exits. You know, and so it's new start and hope it goes different. That's all we can really do at this point.
Yep. I think what you said right there is the management has making some small issues. So right there, I think we can just both agree now that the reputation of, let's say they do give Justin Fields the start and they move on from Russell Wilson, I don't think many starters around the league that are veterans coming in worrying about their position are going to care.
Fair.
I think for me, this was the entire thing that I was just trying to eventually try to roll around to going to, is that
Okay.
if they do give Justin Fields, or let's say they draft a rookie in the second, third, whatever round, undrafted guy, and they go, you know what, Justin Fields and this rookie are both better than what we see from Russell Wilson, so we're happy to move on from him. I do not think veterans are going to care about that.
No, and I wouldn't either. If that's what happens, then great. All I'm trying to say is, if we go into the season with Russell Wilson the starter and Justin Fields the backup, I'm not going to consider that a mistake, and I don't think that's a bad thing. That's why I say we're in a great position, because either of those options is a great option.
Yeah.
Whether it's Russell Wilson QB1 and Justin Fields QB2, or Justin Fields QB1 and unnamed rookie QB2, both of those are excellent situations to be in your quarterback.
Yeah. No, and I stated this last week. I think the Steelers are going to be a playoff team next year. I think their defense is going to do great things like what they did before. So for anyone listening thinking that I'm just shitting on the Steelers for no reason, I think they're going to be a playoff team, and I think their team is going to be better than what we saw the last 2 years from the offensive side of things, because how the fuck can it not?
Well, exactly, and ultimately, like, health is going to be a big thing going into the playoffs. You know, as long as this team can stay healthy, I think we win a playoff game.
Depending on who you go up and match against.
For the most part, yeah. But, like, even this past year, like, if you look at that Bills game, if we had Russell Wilson at quarterback and TJ Watt healthy and playing, I think we win that game.
Maybe.
Right?
But you didn't.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't have either of those. Exactly.
It's going to be really interesting to see what Russell Wilson is going to do. But I just look at this from... And again, I think this is me more trying to defend my guy Justin, because I know the Bears did him wrong over his time in Chicago. Like, he was put in a terrible position from the start, from a general manager and a head coach that were just fighting to save their jobs as best as they could, and then a general manager walking in going, this isn't good enough, we need to tear it down and start anew. And he unfortunately was just going into his second season, and the Bears just got a lot of luck to get some of the picks that they ultimately have acquired. I think Justin Fields is a hell of a lot better of a quarterback right now than what Russell Wilson is. And for your team, I would rather see them win with Justin Fields, as opposed to kind of go around that route that they've kind of been doing these last couple of years with Russell Wilson.
I get what you're saying, and I think the way the Steelers are planning this out right now is doing it right by Justin Fields. Because he's not going into a situation where the head coach and the GM are like, oh, I got to save my jobs, we got to throw Justin Fields in there. They're going into this going, this is a bridge year where we can teach this next guy who we wanted, who wants to be here, and, you know, they're not trying to save their jobs at this point. You know, if they have a losing season, Mike Tomlin's not going to be fired. He may walk away.
Yeah, he's on his last year of his contract, so...
He is, but...
It won't be a firing. It would just be a mutual parting.
Even then, it would be... If Mike Tomlin's like, yeah, I want to stay here and keep coaching, then I think the Rooney family goes, how many years? 3, 4, 5? Here's the contract. Like I don't even like 3-13 or 3-14 season, whatever it would be. I think they would still offer him that contract if he wanted to stay.
I don't know if I was a Steelers fan, I would necessarily want that. I know Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. But again, it's one of those situations of you might want to try something new and fresh. And we both know that there's two coaches that are going to be available next year in the head coaching that should have been the top two guys this year that are going to be available. Like a Ben Johnson coming into the Steelers would be
100%.
a hell of an, maybe not upgrade, but it would be a hell of a, move for the Steelers to potentially get.
Oh, 100%. It's just that's at a point where it's beyond speculation at this point.
Yeah,
because where we're at in
it's
right
it's
now.
it's silly season. Yeah,
like we still have a whole season of football to play before
we haven't even had the draft yet. So
exactly,
yeah,
but like I just, and I get it. Like you want Justin Fields to be done right by, and I honestly think this is the best way to do right by him. You let him come in and learn a system properly instead of throwing him out there and letting him get his head ripped off. Especially we've seen he doesn't get the flags.
I'm hoping that he's now in the black and yellow. He does start to get the flags, but yeah, that is the most insane thing.
Yeah, and I'm going into it expecting he won't. But that Steelers defense will return the favor whether they get flagged or not. You can guarantee if Justin Fields gets hit and there's no flag, then whether it's Joe Burrow or Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson, they're going to get laid out on the next drive.
Is TJ Watt going to pick up a quarterback's helmet and hit him over the head with it, or is that just Myles Garrett?
That's just Myles Garrett.
Yeah. I still think that moment
don't
against the
think
Steelers last year was fucking hilarious, where he found the helmet, and Broderick Jones is like, no, please. And Myles Garrett's just holding it up like, guys, no, I've changed. I'm just trying to give it back.
I don't think Joe Burrow's the type of guy to drop an N-bomb in a scrum that'll get himself hit with a helmet the way that Mason Rudolph did.
Good old Mason Rudolph.
Right?
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I mean, like, I get where you're coming from, and that's where a lot of the league you see some of those memes where there's like two images that are solidly plastered there and then one that's faded, and I feel like the Steelers are slowly fading into clarity to join the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers as great dynasties that are like, yeah, we've won this many times, but
we can't get it done right now.
Can't get it done right now. Like the 49ers have come close lately. The Cowboys don't even come close ever.
Yeah.
But, the Steelers are reaching that point now, where it's been long enough that, the rest of the teams and the rest of the fan bases are going to start going, you're just, Cowboys / 49ers 2.0. Great. You were good in the 60s and 70s. You had a bit of a run in the early 2000s, and that's it. And I get it. But for me, I would still rather make the playoffs every year and just have to find that one more piece to get us over that next hurdle, if that's what it is, rather than slip all the way back and be like, okay, well, yeah, now we're picking in the top 5 for 2 or 3 years, and we're only going to win 4 or 5 games each season, and that's it. And if it doesn't work, then it becomes 10 years of that, or 15 years of that, or 20 years of that.
Totally.
And it's like, I'd rather have 20 years of playoff football than 20 years of 3 or 4 win seasons.
And for me, the biggest reason why I say this, and I know people are potentially again, I hate mediocrity. I hate looking at teams and fans that just coast by and go, just doing enough to get to the playoffs is enough. Like I see it in sports teams in other leagues like the NHL and that type of stuff in basketball. I look at the Chicago Bulls, for instance. They are just a team that is perfectly content with making it to the playoff or the play-in round, and they're just happy with that. They're like, that's good enough.
And I will agree with you on the other leagues for that for sure. Especially the NBA and the NHL, mainly because like with those leagues, when you talk getting into the draft and drafting players, you've usually got a big 1, 2, or maybe a big 3 guy. And then there's this massive drop off in talent after that.
Yeah.
Like, you need a top 3 pick to rebuild a team in those leagues. With the NFL, I feel there's so much more talent going in because there's such a
The
great
NFL
pipeline
does
from the NCAA.
the NFL does drafting right.
Exactly, and so there's just so much more talent that you don't need a top 3 pick to guarantee you are going to improve your team. You can do that with a top 15 pick. You can do that with a top 25 pick if you've got the scouting in place to be able to do so. And a good enough team that all you're really doing each year is, oh, we got to fill this one hole and then build our depth for injuries. And if the NFL gets their way and we end up going to a 20-game season or a 22-game season like they're wanting in the future, then depth is going to become so much more important in this league. It's going to be a point where we're going to see teams that are like, oh, okay, we're in the middle, easy part of our season playing the no-win, one-win teams for the next 3 weeks. It's all second string, it's all third string. That's, again, speculation for the future.
Neither of us want that.
No.
Like, I heard the
No, I don't
NFL
like
talking
that.
about, well,
The
we want to
only
have
good-
an 18-week season. I'm like, yes, let's have an 18-week season, but we go back to 16 games and each team gets 2 bye weeks.
Yeah. And like the only good thing that would come of it, if they push enough extra games, it's like, okay, so now the playoffs are going to run when we're starting to get nice weather. Okay, fine. But even then, I would rather start the season a little bit later if that's what they want.
I think what would happen in that scenario is they would probably start in August, like the preseason would be in like July, and then
that
like
would be so stupid though.
I think they really like having that set timeline of like Super Bowl first week of February, and then the first week of March it's the combine, and then we have free agency, and then the last week of April is the draft, and then we start to do some camps and that type of stuff.
I just think if they expand it, they should expand it at the end of the season, not at the start. Because we run into the issue every year now, where one team or another has a really bad weather playoff game. We had multiple this year. I think 3 of them, where it's like, okay, now if we don't start the playoffs until end of February, then we don't have as much of concern for that.
You want to know how we solve all of those situations?
Make teams build domes.
Every team has a dome. We
Right.
live in the modern world of football. Why the fuck
would
do
be
we
the
not
easy way
have
to do
domes?
But you get stupid teams and stupid cities like
Buffalo.
the Steelers, like the Bills, like the Bears, where like, no, we have outdoor
No,
football.
oh no, the Bears. Their entire focus for their next stadium, which is a massive issue in Chicago right now. It has been. It doesn't matter whether we're in Arlington Heights, whether in Chicago. It's going to be a dome. Like the Bears are building a dome stadium.
Okay, the issue is where it's going to be, not what kind it's going to be.
Yeah, it's the issue right now is because of course the White Sox in Chicago are also looking to build a new stadium. So it's a whole fucking massive issue that it just seems to be getting stupider and stupider day in, day out. Where the Chicago Bears are saying, like, oh, we're going to build our stadium in the south lot of Soldier Field. And then it's like Arlington Heights is like, whoa, like you said you're still talking with us. And they're like, oh, we are still talking with you guys because we're very much wanting to build it in Arlington Heights. And then Chicago goes, well, what the fuck? So it's just this constant loop. But the entire thing is, there's going to be a dome, right? And everyone's like, yeah, shut up. Of course we're going to have a fucking dome.
Good.
Yeah.
Because like that would be the ideal. I'd rather stay at the 16 or 17 games and just make these teams build domes.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have that weather issue. It's just, if the league pushes their agenda and they're like, we want 22 games, we want X number of games, tack those on at the end, not at the beginning. Because then at least we have nice weather to finish the season, rather than nice weather when it doesn't matter.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Like, all they would be doing at that point, like, let's say they have the 22-game season, you would be still having those weather concerns just during the later portions of the season, and I still think you're getting terrible weather situation even in March. Like, because again, let's say we go up to Buffalo. Buffalo's still a snowy ass place even up into March.
Yep.
So
it can be. You see more weather fluctuation because on any given day, like even us, like it's snowing like hell right now. 2 days from now, it could be sunny or raining.
Yeah. Well, like a week and a half ago, there was no snow on the ground. It was beautiful. We were walking around in shorts.
I bet by this time next Saturday, it'll be the same thing.
I hope so.
I would wager it. But yeah, like it. I think domes would be the better way to go rather than
they need to basically I think they need to mandate if you're gonna build a new stadium, it has to be a dome. I think the NFL,
or at the very least a hybrid that you can.
You can open it and close it. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to keep it open 99% of the time. That's fine. If there's a game coming up and there's a weather system rolling through, you have to close it. If you don't, then yeah, mandate it to be like, oh well, you didn't follow the rules, you're being forced to forfeit now, rather than postpone the games.
I wouldn't necessarily say forfeit, but
if it's mandated that way is what I mean.
Yeah,
like not out of the blue, like, oh, you fucked up, we're gonna make you forfeit. It's like, no, this was signed and agreed by all owners, all teams, and NFL, NFLPA, whatever. Like,
I think it should be, if you're looking to build a new stadium, you have to build it on a dome. But then again, there's going to be teams that, for instance, like MetLife. I haven't heard anything of both the Jets or the Giants wanting to have a new stadium built. So it would be one of those things, like I know the Bills, who are looking to build a new stadium, they would have to put a dome on it. But, for instance, Green Bay, who could have a similar situation to the Buffalo Bills, since they're not looking to build a new stadium, it could be a situation of like, okay, well, they just had a similar storm to what Buffalo did. And yeah, it would just have to be that very fine line. If you're building a new stadium, it has to be domed, as opposed to
that's what it would be. It would be in there that it's like when you build your new stadium, it must be done in this manner.
I also think that if the NFL ever decides that they want to go to those 22 weeks of a season, they need to have more teams. Like,
well, that is their plan.
Yeah.
That their plan and their argument is, well,
we're going to have 40 teams
in our European expansion, then we want to add more weeks so there's more games, and also affords us to provide more buys to these teams who have traveled overseas one way or the other. It's like, okay, you just, Germany just came over and did their 4-week stint around the Americas, and they're going back. They now have a bye week to reacclimatize to home and get ready for the next games, and same thing. I think if it goes to like a 22 or 24 game season, I think we end up seeing 2, possibly even 3 bye weeks per team.
You're gonna have to, because the players aren't surviving 16 game season, let alone 17.
Right. The thing that I really don't want with that is what's gonna happen is as soon as that comes down, they're gonna go, okay, well, now we're playing games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Wednesday would be the only dry day at that point, I think.
I don't think you're ever going to see a Tuesday or Wednesday game, but I think the potential for Friday. But then again, the NFL, they really do highly respect high school football, and high school football is a Friday type day.
It is, yeah, but I think at some point it's about money for them.
Yeah.
And if they can start getting some ticket money and some sales on Fridays and Saturdays, they're going to.
I think the first day that we're going to see is Sunday, where it's going to be a regular thing. But I think
it's already a regular thing Sunday.
We only have Saturday? Oh yeah, Saturday. Yeah. I know we have a few weeks during the season where we have Saturday games, but
it's usually Christmas time.
Yeah, it's that holiday season of where it's like, okay, you know what, we're just trying to add some of these games and that type of stuff. But I think if we are going to see an extra day added to the calendar, it's probably going to be like, okay, here on Saturday, we're going to have 2 games as opposed to just the one primetime situation. And,
Yeah, see, and that I would be fine with. I really don't want to see the NFL go to and we're going to utilize every day of the week if we can.
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past them to present it in some way, shape, or form, just to get some other concession. Just being a guy who works Monday to Friday, that would be really disappointing for me, because I'm like, well, fuck, now
you're going to be missing more.
Now.
You're going to be missing more games as opposed to when you could be watching it.
It would become like basketball or hockey, where it's like yeah, I don't watch most of the games because they're during the week now.
Yeah, they're during the nights when you're working.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think you're ever gonna have to worry about that. I think the NFLPA and the safety portion of that, they're going to go, we're already kind of sketched out with Thursday night games just because of the actual delay with that. And one of the things that I've heard the NFLPA propose is that if you play a Thursday game, the week following is your bye week. So you have Thursday game, you have the bye week, and then you have your whatever day you're going to play that game on, which I think would be smart to do. And yeah, going back to, because I think their expansion, it's not going to be just a one-team expansion. I think they're going to bring in 8 teams all at once. I think they're going to just drop it and be like, okay, we have 40 now. There's 40 teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, one extra division per conference. And Europe is going to get 4 teams. Yeah. London, Liverpool, somewhere in Germany, Munich, yeah. And probably Frankfurt.
Maybe. I think they might only do one team in Germany.
Where would that fourth? Would it go to Barcelona? Maybe.
Maybe Barcelona, or maybe can't think of the capital, but Ireland.
Oh, Belfast.
Yeah.
Dublin. Belfast or Dublin? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'd probably have two in England, one in Germany, and one in either Spain, Ireland.
I feel like it would probably be Barcelona just because the population as opposed to Dublin.
Yeah, the tough thing is, like, have they done any games in Spain?
I know they're doing some in the future.
Yeah, I just don't think they've done it yet, and I think that's sort of what it is they want to see what the reception is first. Like, they've seen in Germany, they have a big NFL fan base.
That's why I think 2 teams in Germany could potentially work.
I think they would just be concerned with splitting the fan base and therefore splitting the revenue.
Yeah, but they would also be looking at, like, the UK of going, like, okay, if they can have the 2 teams, one in London and one in Liverpool or Manchester, whatever they decide to split that, why can't we have in Munich and then Frankfurt?
I think it would I don't know what the population levels are in countries. I think that's what would play a factor for sure. Like, depending on what the population is in the area, that would likely determine whether they were willing to do 2 teams right away, or if they were going to do, okay, let's do one and see how this goes.
Yeah, fair enough. I know they've played NFL games in both cities in Germany, so that's just why I've brought that up. And we know the Germans, they love a good little bit of footy, and we know the Brits like having the games in London or Manchester or Liverpool, wherever they play the other game, but...
And it's different for us being in North America, because, like, we look at it and it's like, okay, driving from major city to major city, it's 3 to 6 to 10 hours between the cities. Like, you go to the UK or, Germany, and it's, a 90-minute drive from one big populace to another.
Which is hilarious, so because
not as difficult for them to go, well, we're going to put the stadium right between them, so it's 45-minute drive from either.
The funny thing is with the cultures, though, is that you talk to people from, like, Europe, and you go, oh, like, that city is 2.5 hours away. They go, that's such a commute. I would never drive that. I'm going to take the train. Right. And while you and I were like, oh, it's 2.5 hours. Like, that's unfortunately, we're going to have to do 5 hours of driving, but that's doable. Like, that's totally fine.
I mean, that's the sad part about North America, is because it's so spread out like that. It's, for them, 2 hours, they're like, that's like a whole weekend. Whereas for some people in North America, it's like, that's my daily commute to work, which is bullshit. I feel for people that have to drive that much to get to and from work.
I know my dad, when he was actually driving to work, he had to drive 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back every single day. And the 45 minutes is if the roads were clear and everything was good conditions. If there was traffic, make that an hour and a half. And I told him when the pandemic hit, I was like, you just need to stay, like, remote. There's no point in you going to your office anymore like this, because that's stupid. And that's what he's done.
Right. Yeah, it's too bad that in a lot of cases it's beyond the people's control. It's up to the company and the management. But
So we've kind of figured out these 4 teams in Europe. The question is where will the 4 teams be in North America?
Mexico City.
I feel like Mexico City would probably get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it'll be restricted to North America. I think they're waiting to see how these Rio games next year go in Brazil.
The only problem I have with Rio is that
Yep.
they will expand more teams in America just because it's American football. They're going to have that. I think Rio just might unfortunately be just a little too far out of grasp for it to be a regular staple thing, because if you have the 4 teams in Europe, they play however many games against each other there. They're going to have their home games there. They're only having to come over to America 3-4 times at the most. And they can realistically just do, okay, we're going to do a 2-week road trip out there and just stay out there, train out there, and then we're going to come back for 2 or 3 weeks and such and such and such. I feel that with Rio, it's just so out of the way, and it's going to be the only team kind of in that area.
It is. It'll be tough for sure. But, I mean, looking at South America, I honestly don't see a lot of other places that they could eventually expand to. I think that, like, it's going to be limited to maybe 2 teams at most for South America. And so at some point, if they decide to do that, it's going to have to be, it'll be a deep south sort of thing. It'll be, you know, the Mexico City team and then one of the Florida or Texas teams paired with whatever's in south, and that'll be a division.
Yeah.
And you just have to suck it up and deal with it.
I think Rio might just be the team where it's just like, we're going to go there every year and play a game, but a team will never be actually a main staple there just because of that.
We said that about the UK when they first started doing that. We were like, there's no way they'll put teams over there. They're just doing this for now. Like, I think a lot of us fans looked at it that way. And then as they saw the success and the money they were making, they were like, no, we got to put teams over.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking that out of it, because I don't think in this expansion they would be included. I think what would be more likely would be, a team is being moved and we're going to move it to Brazil and force restructuring. I think that would be more likely.
It could be a relocation situation. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, for North American teams, Mexico City for sure gets one.
I think so.
I think we see St. Louis get a team back as well. That would be a very likely one for me.
Oakland definitely not getting a team.
No. They're already having too much struggles in California as it is, just having the Chargers and the Rams.
Yeah.
You know, and the 49ers. You know, it's too compact there.
Probably Austin, Texas would get a team.
Maybe. That's possible, yeah.
It's kind of that middle ground.
It's a big state, so I could definitely see them getting a third team in there, either Austin or maybe San Antonio.
San Antonio, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 cities.
So it might make it easier to pair with Mexico City.
I know Houston or I know Austin is right smack dab in the middle of like Houston and Dallas. That's the only reason that I kind of bring it up. I'm pretty sure San Antonio's more north than Dallas.
Is it more north? I thought it was more southwest, but Canadians doing American geography. We're better than they are at our geography, okay?
Yeah, so, yes. That does not that is not a difficult feat whatsoever. Okay, so Dallas.
I have to pull up the map too.
It's never mind. San Antonio is south of Austin, and it's technically more south than Houston. Houston is kind of all the way over onto the coast. You go. San Antonio's, it looks like it'd be like 2 or 3 hours drive north of Austin, and Dallas is all the way up north. Okay, so again, like you said it best there, Canadians trying to do American geography. We're better than the Americans trying to do Canadian geography.
Exactly. We at least know which states are where.
Where is that Quebec? Is that on the west side? But again, I think most Canadians.
Where else could we see a team go?
Memphis.
I could see Milwaukee, possibly.
They have Green Bay, though.
They do have Green Bay right there. You're right.
Milwaukee's just too close to Chicago.
Yeah. You know what? Nashville.
But
I know
don't the
or is that
Titans?
where the Titans
I'm
are?
pretty sure the
Titans
Titans
are
play
there?
out of Nashville. Yeah.
Do they? Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the Capitals. That's why I was like, no, we got the Tennessee Titans. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm just
You know,
looking.
there's a big gap here. You know, in the middle. You know, above Texas, below Kansas.
Does
You know,
Utah
maybe
get
we
a
could see
team
in
though?
Oklahoma or in Arkansas.
You know what, Oklahoma City, I could see being
Yeah.
a pretty big candidate for it.
They've talked about it in the past, but I think the big issue with some of those n- southern middle states is they're just so big into college and high school football that they almost feel like they're burnt out for an actual NFL team. So that's
Does
tough.
Salt Lake City get an NFL team? Because I know they've got their basketball team. I know they're going to be looking to try to get an NHL team and a baseball team. Do they potentially try to go? We already know Vegas is around that area. Do we try to build a rivalry between Salt Lake City and Las Vegas?
Yeah, maybe.
But I know Salt Lake, obviously, they have Utah and the Utah State. So those are two college, but yeah,
That is true.
I know Utah is definitely trying to get more into the sports game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a really likely one for sure. Because I mean, again, like looking, it's hard to tell really where else might get one. Because there are some big gap areas in the U.S., but they don't have a lot of population.
That's the
And that's
thing.
what
It's
it'll
like
come
with the
down to.
West Coast is that there's a lot of area, but there's just not a lot of super populated cities.
Well,
Portland,
even with like
maybe.
the upper Midwest, you know, you look at Idaho and Wyoming, and like the population there just it doesn't warrant an entire NFL team, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, Montana alone has less population than the city that we live in
Exactly.
for its entire state. I think
Yep.
Portland could potentially get a team, another
Yep.
West Coast team, that upper West Coast kind of potentially, because if you look at that region, it's pretty much Seattle and nothing else. Portland could
Well,
be
yeah, because
another
you've
one.
got Seattle, and then it's all the way down to San Francisco. So yeah, it's possible that Portland or Salem could end up with a team in Oregon for sure. Oregon is a big football state,
We know they like their ducks.
right? You know, and it's funny because I love how neither one of us even speculate the possibility of a Canadian team because I don't think the NFL will even play
Yeah,
with the idea.
I was
They know we're
sitting.
too cheap.
I was sitting with the idea of like maybe Toronto.
Toronto or Vancouver would be the only ones that they would risk starting in, and I just don't think. I
It would
don't think
be
they would.
Toronto for sure. That would be the one that would go to just
Yeah.
because of the Raptors and the Blue Jays.
But that's why they even stopped bringing games up here to play because we used to get Bills games.
Yeah,
in
it was
Toronto,
every
but
single year the Bills would play in Toronto.
nobody would pay to go to the games because they're like, why are we gonna spend $400 to go to a game when every other sport that we have
Is
under
already
$100 to go to
expensive.
a game?
True.
You know? And like,
And I
so
think
that
the
was
league.
just it. They realized that Canadians we're cheap in that way. Like we're not gonna spend that money to go to that game.
I also think the other issue with a Toronto team or a Toronto-based or just a single individual Toronto or a Canadian-based team is that they would hope that it would be like the other leagues, like the MLB or NBA, of
NBA.
where it's like the entire country rallies around that one individual team. But any Canadian person who watches the NFL, they already have their team. They're not just going to be
Exactly.
like, you aren't going to be like, I'm not a Steelers fan anymore because we have the Toronto insert name here. And I'm not going to sit
Right.
here and be like, I'm a Toronto insert name here fan now because I don't want to be a Bears. It's like you and I combined have over 50 years of fandom just for our teams alone. Like,
Yeah.
it's too built-in root. Like I think most of us, because Mexico City, that would be a team where the entire country of Mexico could sit back and rally behind. Sure, there's going to be fans that are going to be like, oh, you and I have already had my fandom built in for this particular team, but not necessarily like we are in Canada, because you talk to any football fan in Canada and ask them their NFL team and how long they've been a fan of it. Most of the time it's 10 years plus built-in roots.
Yeah, like that would be a situation of they're trying to get new fans, and it just won't happen in Canada. It's unfortunate, but and you look at what happens with teams like the Blue Jays and the Raptors, and they struggle so hard to even get talent to come up here because the pay is different, the tax system is different, and ultimately these guys are coming up here into a cold weather environment and making less. And that is a real big problem. You know, we see it in the NHL too, even though we've got 8 NHL teams, I think.
I think it's 7.
The Canadian teams always struggle to compete with the American ones purely for that fact. You know, the NHL is predominantly Canadian players across all these teams, but most of them play for American teams.
Yeah, like if you're a Canadian team in the NHL, the thought of drafting an American player, you're like, they don't want to play here. Like, I know the Calgary Flames and Matthew Tkachuk. We'll have them for the rookie deal. We'll sign him to like I think it was like a 3-4 year deal, and then he's like, I'm out, guys. I know I'm one of the best players in the NHL, and I'm basically a unicorn in the NHL, but I don't want to play for you because you're in Canada. Like,
exactly.
That's
why we won't see an NFL team to come to Canada. But another one while we were talking that I spotted is possibly something like Albuquerque or Santa Fe in New Mexico.
Yeah,
that puts you right between
Arizona
and Dallas and Denver, so you're right in that range. You know, nice close travel and fair sized population in that area as well. So.
Yeah, like, I think you and I are both in agreement that we like the idea of a 40-team expansion for the NFL. And I think if we do have that, the league will be like, okay, we have 40 teams, we need to make this 20 weeks, just so, and they will have the 2 bye weeks in there, because the NFLPA will look at that and go, there's zero chance in hell that we are not going to have those 2 bye weeks in there for our players, because you're going to have offensive linemen week 17 walking around not knowing where they are because they haven't had their bye week yet. Or they've only had one. They're just like, I like cookies and potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Again, for me, I look at this and I go, the NFL right now, what it is, I know they want to have like the 18-game regular season. I'm like, if you want to have 18 weeks, fine by me. Happy with it. I love the idea. 2 bye weeks, though, in 16 games. Like, let's go back to the 16 games. The fact that you can never actually technically be 500 anymore is a little bit weird. And what are the Steelers going to do? They can never technically be 500 anymore.
Exactly. You're always above or below.
Yeah. That doesn't work for the Steelers anymore, where they were kind of riding that fine line of, we're 8-8. We're still having that 500 record. I know that was the joke for a while for Mike Tomlin.
Exactly. Just need to win that extra game now. So now we go 9-8 instead.
Yeah.
9-8 is the new 8-8.
Yeah.
8-9 is still 7-9 in my opinion.
Yeah, if you do have that 7-9 record, there's no one going to be like, "Oh, you're 500," but that 9-8, everyone's like, "Okay, you're 500." No, exactly. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about your team in the terms of the Justin Fields trade. Mm-hmm. Bears fans, there was a lot that were just pissed off that the Bears traded away Justin Fields because they were Justin Fields truthers. And I've said countless times on this that I love Justin Fields. I want him to be done right. I really wanted him to be the guy. You were with me the day that the Bears drafted Justin Fields while we were at work. I got on my knees and said thank you to the sky because I was so happy. Like, I stopped working for probably a good 10-15 minutes because I was just too happy and I didn't want to let that shit ruin my day. And it just, unfortunate circumstances, and the fact that Caleb Williams, he had his pro day, And it was that entire scene was I think one of the funniest things that I read from that is that the Bears, he went up, Keenan Allen, newly acquired by the Chicago Bears. He was there at the pro day. Caleb Williams goes and daps him up. I'm sure in their brief conversation was, are you wearing 13 or am I wearing 13? Which of us is getting that number?
Right? Is it going to be the rookie hopeful future franchise, or is it going to be the veteran who just put up an excellent season?
Is it going to be the rookie who's hopefully going to be that, or the 6-time Pro Bowler? It's going to be. It was kind of like that Spider-Man meme of them pointing at each other, going, "Who's getting 13?" While Tyler Scott, currently on the Bears, who wears 13, he's like, "But I wear it." It's like, not anymore, buddy.
No, sorry, you got to pick a new number right away, Mr. Scott.
Yeah. And as soon as the pro day ended, Caleb Williams started dapping up a bunch of people. He goes up to Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, dapped up a few of the Bears coaches. Elliot Wolf, who is one of the main guys for the Patriots, tried to go up and dap him up, and Caleb was like, nah.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not getting me. Like, go away. Like, they've already told me that I'm a Chicago Bear. I already started talking to my new teammate. What do you think this is?
Right, like nothing's gonna change at this point. You're just trying to get yourself in some headline.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I also found it funny when they asked him about the acquisition of Keenan Allen, because of course he's not even drafted to the Bears yet. And they're like, so what do you think of your new wide receiver Keenan Allen? And he was like, oh, I'm not drafted by the Bears yet, but the fact that they got a 4th for him, that's going to be great that he's already here. And I'm just sitting back like, he's already talking like he's on the team. It's awesome. Yeah. I love it. I'm happy. But
yeah, I hope it goes well.
Hopefully
he can finally be the guy to break that rookie passing record, which is something like 2,100 yards in a season.
I was just going to bring that up, of that Caleb Williams does not have a very high bar to set to break the Bears rookie passing record. It's 2,200 and something for passing yards.
I don't even think it's 200. I think it's 2,100.
It might be 2,193 or something like that.
Yeah.
He needs 13 passing touchdowns.
Do Bears fans riot if he doesn't manage to break that? Say he goes out and puts up 1,900 yards and 10 touchdowns. Do Bears fans riot?
Oh, there would be a lot of Bears fans that riot. But yeah. I don't think that is going to be the case for Caleb. Because
I don't think so either.
I think, for me, I've been looking at it going, what is realistic expectations for this young man? Do I look at him and I go, he needs to throw 40 passing touchdowns and this, and that? I think if he goes out there and puts up 25 passing touchdowns and, close to 3,500 yards as a rookie, you can look at that and go, yeah. Do I think I'm being very low in my margins of what I actually think he's going to be able to do? Yeah. I think he has the possibility to not only just break the Bears' rookie passing records this year, I think he has the opportunity to go out there and break every quarterback passing record for the Chicago Bears. Bears have never had a 30 touchdown passer. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer. Why can't he do both in one season? We've seen 2 quarterbacks go out there over the last couple of years. Justin Herbert has managed to throw for over 30. We saw C.J. Stroud. I don't know if he got over 30 or he got pretty damn close. Neither of those 2 guys walked into the situation that Caleb is walking into.
Well, that's exactly it. He's got the weapons. If he's going to put up those numbers, it's most likely going to be in his rookie season then going forward, because as the years progress and when they eventually have to pay him, presumably he's going to have to be the star as opposed to having DJ Moore and Keenan Allen as the star.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of people that are looking at this and go, he has to be the star. It's like, well, the Bears put him in a position to very much be like a Brock Purdy in his first couple of years, where it's going, okay, you have a 6-time Pro Bowler who is coming off of his best season of his career and one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in terms of route running and just not dropping the ball in Keenan Allen. You already have a guy in DJ Moore who is just, you put the ball in his hands and you say, go make play. And he goes, I make play. And he goes and makes play. And then you already have Cole Kmet, who's just a safety blanket. You throw ball at him, he catch ball, he come down. He's not going to be a guy that gets a ton of yards after catch, but I know the Bears just announced today, or it was announced today, that the Bears are meeting with Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. Imagine having Brock Bowers, Cole Kmet, and the other tight end that they brought in that was with the Chargers last year, who was very good. It's like, okay, like, can't be mad at that. But Brock Bowers with Cole Kmet, and then also having DJ Moore and Keenan Allen just as your receivers on any play.
Yeah, if Bowers is there at 9, you got to take him.
Yeah. I would love Bowers. I still want the Bears to take that 9th overall pick and trade back a little bit, just because only having 4 picks in this year's draft, I feel they are on the verge of becoming a really good, consistent team, like what your Steelers have built for a lot of years, but they still need a little bit more draft capital just to kind of keep everything flowing with youth.
The depth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like the idea of flowing with youth. Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like it. With that 9th pick, Bowers is really who you got to go with. Unless there's a guy like Joe Alt still there. And, like getting an extra O-lineman for your Bears and to protect Caleb Williams, got to. But outside of Bowers, because I don't think Alt would still be available, you got to trade back. If Bowers is gone, you go, well, we don't need Roma Duke. We've got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. We can get another wide receiver to be number 3 later in the draft. Plus, we've got some serviceable guys on the roster still that can fill those roles.
Tyler Scott is being projected as the number 3 wide receiver. Do I really like that? No, but, he was a 4th-round pick last year that can do some stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's where I think, a 3rd or a 4th-round pick, taking another wide receiver and going, okay, now it's you and Scott competing for this number 3 spot. Which one of you is going to, take that next step? So I think that would be the most logical thing. And, trading back would be the best thing to do at that point if someone like Bowers is there.
For me, I just look at it.
No.
I just look at it and go, that 9th pick, if you stay within anywhere from like 10 to 20 in that range, there's going to be a team that it might not be even for a quarterback. It could just, like, I'm just going to use your Steelers as a broad example. Maybe let's just say they love Olu Fashanu, tackle out of Penn State. And they go, we traded up for Broderick Jones last year. We fucking love this kid from Penn State. We're going to look at the Chicago Bears and say, we're going to give you a 2nd and 3rd and swap our 1st-round picks this year to go get this guy. Why would either team say no to that? You put your offensive line, who they don't necessarily need another tackle, but if they can get a guy like Fashanu, like, okay.
We do need a tackle. We don't have a right tackle on the roster right now. We don't have a
I thought you guys were kind of in a similar situation to the Bears, where it was like one of your tackles you're happy with, but like it was kind of one of those things where if you can definitely get a guy in that upgrade position you're going to take. I didn't realize you didn't actually have a right tackle.
Well, our right tackle is Broderick Jones, who should be playing left tackle.
Fashanu coming in, though, would play left tackle.
What was that?
If Fashanu, when he comes in, he's going to be a left tackle. So it would just be playing Broderick at right.
Broderick Jones is staying as the right tackle. We're bringing Fashanu in for the left.
This is one of those things where I think the NFL is slowly starting to shift towards people understanding that right tackle is just as important as left tackle in the NFL right now, because most people are like, you got to protect the blind side. You got to protect the blind side. Okay,
which is true.
It is very true, but I don't really care about the blind side if my right tackle has to go up against TJ Watt. I could just see TJ Watt coming at me like this, and I'm just standing there like okay, I'm gonna die, and I get to see it. It's like I would rather have both sides protected. Cause
you get to be like Geno Smith watching Aaron Donald. Oh God.
Oh my God. And Aaron Donald retiring, he had an interview this week, and you can just see the emotions from him, and that was it was an interesting watch. I'd definitely say go watch that.
Yeah,
But
100%. But yeah, I mean, I could for sure see the Steelers trading up with someone like the Bears for that 9th pick, 10th pick, whatever it happens to be.
9th.
Yeah, for either Fashanu or Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah, I don't think you have to trade up for Jackson Powers.
I know it would be a reach, but like there are other teams ahead of us that are in need of a center. That would concern me. I don't think we would have to trade all the way up to 9. I think we could probably land him at 14 or 15.
Yeah, I would be more concerned that if the Bears traded back to that 14th, 15th, 16th spot, that they would take him over your Steelers, just because they could look at that and go, center's our most important need on this offensive line. This dude is a dude. We're going to take him at 15. We don't care.
See, and that's exactly where the Steelers are at, is the most important need on the team, period.
Is your center. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have nobody to snap the ball. Whereas we've got Dan Moore Jr. and Broderick Jones, both left tackles, and we've seen that Broderick Jones can play right tackle. And so worst case, we'd run into the season that way and draft another tackle later that hopefully can fill a spot somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, that center position, that's why I'm like, if we have to trade up to 8, 9, 10, 11 to get him, if that's the only way we can guarantee it, then they almost have to. Because there are none available that would be a great asset available. Like, really, right now, if they go free agent route, you're pretty much better off just going, okay, Mason Cole, we'll bring you back for another year because nobody's signed you yet.
The one thing I will say, if the Steelers do decide to go down that route of trading for Olu Fashanu, and let's say they go out there and do that, and they still need another center, there's 2 more guys in this draft that you can get in, I think, the 2nd and 3rd round. Zach Frazier, center from West Virginia, and then you also have the center from Georgia who is available. All 3 of those guys I think are very playable centers. You're going to plug and play them in day one. And for the Steelers, obviously having quarterbacks that have a little bit more experience, you're not really going to worry too much about them having the rookie center. The only rookie center that I want in this draft to be paired with Caleb Williams is Jackson, just because he's a dog. But yeah, so was.
I get what you mean there. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fight for JPJ though. You know, because there's a lot of teams, and unless you've got a veteran quarterback, you want that dog of a center. You know, and even if it ends up being Justin Fields, I would rather have a guy who is a solid center than a guy who is, you know, learning the speed of the NFL game at that point. You know, the center out of Georgia would be good because, you know, there would be that familiarity with Broderick Jones, because I believe Broderick Jones was
he came from Georgia.
Yeah, and so there would be that familiarity there. So it wouldn't surprise me there either if, you know.
But he's more of a 3rd round.
You know what? This guy is good, and I can help him get up to speed.
He's definitely more of a 3rd round type guy, though.
Right.
But it's still great value.
We've got 2 3rd-round picks. So.
Yeah, unless you want to trade some of those 3rd-round picks to the Bears to move up for Olu Fashanu.
Yeah, see, I don't think that'll happen. I don't think they'll move up for another tackle this year. I think it would be for...
It would be to secure the fact that
just
they
because
get him.
then we'd be in the situation of, we've got Fashanu, but he would be in the same boat as Broderick Jones was last year, where we're like, okay, Dan Moore Jr. isn't a bad left tackle. And so...
You just potentially looking for an upgrade that's younger.
Right, and it's more looking for some... Like, if we can get a right tackle who is a surefire right tackle, then we go, okay, well... Broderick Jones outshined you last year, Dan Moore, so we know Broderick Jones is the guy. If we bring in someone like Fashanu, it would be exactly like last year, where everybody's looking at the Steelers going, what do you mean Broderick Jones not starting? It would be, what do you mean Fashanu's not starting and he's back up behind Dan Moore? And it's like, well, we know Dan Moore Jr. can do it. We want Fashanu to get up to speed.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it would be. Whereas with a right tackle, I feel like a right tackle rookie, they would throw in there on the line they won't do that with the left tackle, especially not with an ancient Russell Wilson or a Justin Fields who has had a career of just getting rocked by guys. They want to make sure either one of those quarterbacks have the impeccable protection. Like I feel like Omar Khan's going to be looking at this draft going, I need to build.
He's going to draft 7 O-linemen.
I don't know if it'll be 7 because
I know. I just threw out a ridiculous number. Yeah.
Right.
They'll draft like 3.
Yeah. I think they'll have a middle linebacker, a wide receiver, and a safety drafted. Every other spot will likely be an O-lineman. O-line or D-line.
Yep. Building the trenches. I know the Bears have signed this offseason like 5 offensive linemen just because they're like, we are going to have depth. And I'm sitting back going like, I know Bears fans are like, why would you sign this fucking no-name offensive lineman? I'm like, guys, he was a starter last year on a team. He was not great as a starter, but god damn it, we're having depth. This is what good teams have, is depth.
Was it last season or the season before where you guys drafted like 4 offensive linemen or 5 offensive linemen?
That was Ryan Pohl's first year as a general manager. He's like, this offensive line is really bad. I'm going to draft 4 of them, and one just so happened to be the starting left tackle.
Right? That's when you really need to build up a unit, that is the way to do it. You bring in a lot of competition and you go, you guys are fighting for it. Whoever wins, you've got a job for the future. The rest of you are going to get to test free agency.
The best man survives.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know, and that's what the Bears are finally reaching that point, which will be nice. In 5 years, like, if you guys haven't won and you're in the playoffs every year, you'll start feeling like me, where you're like, nah, we need to blow it up. We just need that one more piece to start winning these playoff games.
The only difference
to understand where I'm coming from.
The only difference that I know for a fact that I won't kind of have that is because for years and years and years as a Detroit Red Wings fan, I was in that of just like, we just need to make it to the playoffs. As long as we make it to the playoffs, it was kind of like that. I went, you know what? The last 3 or 4 years of those playoff runs, they were hurting us more than they were actually doing us good, because we were trying to just get to the playoffs as opposed to saying, you know what, it's time to rebuild.
Yeah, they felt like a team in the NHL because they still had that record, didn't they?
Yeah, it was 25 years.
Exactly, and so I feel like they got the tunnel vision of that, of, oh, well, we've got this impressive streak. We just have to make the playoffs so we can keep this streak going. It wasn't we have to make the playoffs so we can, enter season number 2 and try to win the cup. That is the problem. The Steelers aren't just trying to set the record. They're just trying to, we want to get to season 2 and start fresh and then try to win this.
I know exactly what you mean by that, but for me, the only reason that I know that I won't have that opinion with the Bears is because I've lived it with the Red Wings, where it was it's 25 years of great success, but those last 5 years did more damage to the future of that team than it did. And that's why the Red Wings, for the first few years of the Yzerman experiment, it was just like, we're going to be bad. Everyone get used to being bad, because the only way that we can get good is by being bad. And
and we talked about it earlier in the episode here, where with the NHL, that really is true. Like, you need a top 3 pick to start a rebuild in that league, because
you need someone
off significantly.
Yeah, after pick 5, you're gonna have guys that don't enter the NHL for 2 years, and that pisses me off. I look at that and I go, draft guys when they're ready, man. Like, why like, oh, there was a pick a few years ago that I heard, and they asked him, they're like, oh, how many years do you expect before you make it to the NHL? He goes, I'm hoping to make the NHL in 2 years. I'm like, dude, you're like the 5th pick. The fuck do you mean 4 or 2 years?
Draft them so young too. Like, I remember how many years ago, but it was the Flames drafted Mark Jankowski, and he was only 15 or 16. And
it would have been 17, because that's the youngest you can be drafted.
Is it?
Yeah.
Was it 17? Oh.
Yeah.
But, it's like, he's not going to be in the league for sometimes close to 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God.
Well, you look at Connor Bedard when he got drafted at 18. You're like, okay, like he is a special talent, and it's weird watching him be one of the best players in the NHL as a legitimate child. Like the youngest player that I remember being drafted into the NFL was Sam Darnold. Because when he was drafted, he had just turned like 19 or something like that. Like he was going to start an NFL game as a 19-year-old. And I looked at that and I went, that's insane, man. Like he's too young. Like it doesn't.
And then people wonder why he didn't have success with the Jets of all teams. It's it didn't shock me at all.
One of the
That's
things
where
that
my philosophy of letting guys learn makes more sense. We don't see a lot of quarterbacks, especially in the NFL, that truly hit their stride unless they're really, really special, obviously. Patrick Mahomes is an anomaly. Like, most of them, though, it's not until you're in that 25 to 27-year-old range where you truly start hitting your stride.
I was thinking about this, it was either yesterday or the night before. Because I was looking at this talking, and we talked about, the Bears on, like, what the expectations are for Caleb in year one. I think what you see from a quarterback in their first year of playing and the stats that they put up ultimately kind of tell you what their career is going to be in the NFL. Because you look at how Trubisky played in his rookie year, he was bad. You look at how Justin played in his rookie year, he was bad. You look at how Mahomes played in his first year of play. He won the MVP and put up 50 passing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He's had an alright career. You look at Justin Herbert, the way that he came out and played. He was great. Mm-hmm. You look at Joe Burrow, before he got hurt, he was on pace to break every rookie record at the time. Tua, you saw him, he didn't really get a ton of playing time during his rookie year. I think he only played in like 6 or 7, so it was kind of hard to judge. But his first year of play, it was just kind of middle of the park. And what has Tua been? He's been a middle of the park quarterback. You look at Kenny Pickett over his first 2 years of play, or his first year of play, wasn't great. I genuinely think you get a very good idea, because you look at Brock Purdy. Even in those 7 games that he started, he was phenomenal. Yes, you can say that he had all of these guys around him, this, and that. I truly think that if you see a quarterback have very poor numbers in his first year of play, he's probably going to be a bad quarterback. You look at Trevor Lawrence. I don't remember Trevor Lawrence's numbers in his rookie year. I don't remember them being particularly great. Mm-hmm. What has Trevor Lawrence done in the NFL so far?
Right. He hasn't had a great team around him, but not much. All those quarterbacks you listed, I always want to take Patrick Mahomes out of that list, though, only because he didn't play his rookie year.
Well, that's why I said first year of play.
Right, and that's ultimately what it is. I feel like when we see a guy's first year of play not be his rookie year, it usually is a better year. We don't get a lot of rookies that put up phenomenal numbers. It doesn't happen often, and when it does, we usually see a massive drop-off for their sophomore year. That second season in, because teams are like, oh, well, he did all these things last year. Now we've got game tape. We can review it. We can shut him down. And we do see that happen a lot. Because I think Trevor Lawrence, even though the team had a bad record, he had some decent numbers in his first year. And
so I'm looking at his rookie stats. So he had a record of 3-14. Again, I look at record, throw that out. It's not a quarterback stat, but he had 3,641 passing yards. He had 12 TDs and 7 interceptions. His second year, he threw for 4,113 yards, 25 TDs, and 8 passing touchdowns. So he improved. This last year was 4,016 yards, 21 TDs, to 14 interceptions. So he went from being bad to kind of just middle of the road.
Yeah, and a bit of a regression this year, but he did struggle with injury.
Yeah,
missed
this
a
year
couple games as well.
he did have injuries that caused him. I'm just taking a look here at Tua's stats throughout the NFL so far. In his first year, he played in 10 games, but he had less than 2,000 yards, 11 TDs, 5 interceptions. His year after that, played in 13 games, had 16 to 10 and 2,653. His third year, again, only 13. So the only year that he's actually had a proper year, which was this year, 4,624 passing yards, 29 TDs, and 14 interceptions. That's a pretty good year.
But how much of that was just Tyreek Hill?
A lot of it, because Tyreek Hill almost had 2,000 yards. So
Exactly.
you take out Tyreek Hill, and yeah.
And that's where the problem comes into play. You look at Trevor Lawrence and those numbers he's put up. He's, in my opinion, never really had a true number one receiver. Like, even Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, these guys are, on most teams they would go to, they're the number 2 guy. I feel.
Apologies, as I just choke on my water.
No, that's all good. But, like, I feel like you give Trevor Lawrence a DJ Moore or a Justin Jefferson or something like that, and then a Calvin Ridley or a Christian Kirk behind him, I think we could see Trevor Lawrence hit 35 touchdowns and possibly even push that 5,000 mark.
Yeah, maybe. Definitely a strong maybe, but again, Calvin Ridley was a 1,000-yard receiver. Christian Kirk, I believe, even got 1,000 yards, not this season, but the year prior to. Christian... As I just quickly...
I mean, to get to 4,500 or 5,000 yards, you need multiple 1,000-yard receivers.
Well, you just don't see those that often.
No, you don't. You don't. But I mean, the fact that he's put up over 4,000 yards 2 of the... Is it 4 seasons he's been in the league now, or 3?
Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 3. Out of the 3 years that he's played, he has 2,000 or 2 4,000-yard seasons.
Right, which is impressive for a guy who, as I said, hasn't really had a true number 1 receiver.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but but yeah, going back to that little thing that I looked at is you just kind of take a look at these guys, and what they put out their first year typically gives you a pretty good idea of how their career is going to go, or of how it theoretically should go.
Yep, which kind of explains why the Bears have kind of struggled finding that franchise quarterback, because none of them have been able to put up more than 13 touchdowns and more than 2,200 yards. And so that's just it. Even if Caleb Williams comes out and throws for 2,800 yards and 17 touchdowns, that is a great building block for the Bears, as long as you can keep getting him those weapons. But then at the same time, you look at that and go, if he can only do that much with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore,
with Cole Kmet,
there might be some red flags that you got to look at to figure out why he's only doing those numbers with 2 number 1 receivers. Yeah,
no, I agree, and that's going to be one of the things that definitely is going to be something to keep an eye on. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of curious to see. I think this week I'm actually going to go through and kind of crunch the numbers and ultimately kind of figure out if this is actually a trend that is ultimately a little bit realistic, and then we can come back to it next week with my findings. But yeah, that's one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, because it seems like whether it's the rookie year or not.
See, I would like you to separate the two, though. If if they're playing as a rookie, or if they sat and learned the system first, have them be 2 different lists, because I feel like you get a substantially different quality in your first year when you're able to sit and learn the system, as opposed to being out there week 1 and learning as you go. I feel like you have more success if you are a quarterback that sits and learns first, and then you go out there.
Are we using how long are we saying for sitting down and learning? Because no quarterback ever sits truly for a full year. Because even Patrick Mahomes, he played a game as a starting quarterback in his rookie season.
Yeah, but you're not going to... Like, are you going to use that one game as the deciding factor, though? So
No.
when you played your first full season, when you were the starter, did you play that first full season?
Yeah, but for instance, a guy like Kenny Pickett, he played half the games that year.
Right, and so I wouldn't count that. I would count year 2, this past year, as Kenny Pickett's rookie year, is what I would say.
I think the best way that I'm going to look at that is I'm going to take either the first 16 games of their career.
See, I disagree with that only because if you play 8 games in one season, then 8 games the next season, you're playing for 2 different teams, even if you're wearing the same jersey. You know what
Okay,
I'm saying?
yeah. I think the best way that I could potentially do that is go. For instance, I'm looking at Brock Purdy's first 7 games in the year as his rookie year because that truly was a situation where he played enough. It's because even then he was in conversations for potentially rookie of the year with those numbers, so that counts in my opinion. It's going to be a situation of it's going to have to be kind of seeing exactly how much they played in that rookie year. If it's like 2 or 3 games, then I'm going to look at the next season, for instance. But if they've played like 7 or 8 and they played a decent chunk of that, then it was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to count that as their rookie season.
Yeah, it'll just be tough to compare at that point. That's my only concern.
Yeah, but you can get a decent idea. Like, you can ultimately calculate the numbers of, like, okay, break it down per game and go, like, if you stretch that out to a full 16, this is realistically where it would have come down to, just looking at the numbers. And, like, that's kind of the way that I can ultimately determine it.
Fair.
But, yeah, that's kind of the way that I go. And, if you don't like the way that I do it, I'm sure you'll tell me.
No, that's fair. I was just saying, like, a guy like Patrick Mahomes, I feel like he needs to be on a separate list because he sat and he learned Andy Reid before he was out there as the starter.
What that will be is it'll be a situation of going sat for his rookie season, but his first season as a starter. Like, it'll be like a little explanation point next to it, or a little note beside of going like his first actual season as a player was in year 2. But it's one of those things where you just don't really see a lot of those guys at this point in the NFL.
No.
So.
Well, that's just it, and I think that's part of the problem in the NFL right now. Everybody wants their rookie to come in and play week 1 and be a superstar, and that doesn't happen. You look at the best of the best over the years, and they were very rarely the starter week 1 after they got drafted. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger. It's very rare that you see the guy be the starter week 1.
Those were in different times. Like, those 3 guys, I will argue, those were different times.
Those were different times, 100%. But in these current times, the new method is not working. C.J. Stroud is the one that managed to turn it around so far.
I don't know. Joe Burrow's been pretty good.
Joe Burrow, yeah.
Would you say Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL?
No.
Would you say he's top 5?
No.
You wouldn't say like, I shit on Josh Allen a lot, but I think he's top 3. I think it's Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I'm curious to see who you have over Josh Allen.
Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and then maybe Josh Allen does squeak into the top 5 because no other name popped into my head there.
I don't know if I can have Lamar Jackson as a quarterback in my top 5. As a player,
I thought you were gonna say as a running back.
No, I'm not gonna sit down and say Lamar Jackson's a running back because he's not. Like, when I look at the quarterback position, I look at it and I go, what are you doing as a quarterback? Because, like, again, like, I'm just going to take a look here at Lamar Jackson's numbers. And, again, I know numbers don't tell the full story for an NFL player. And Lamar Jackson was dynamic as hell this year. But if you actually take a look at what his season was this year when he won the MVP award, he had 3,678 passing yards. He had 24 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
That was your MVP this year. Now, Patrick Mahomes had a hell of a lot more passing touchdowns and better passing yards.
Oh, yeah. I didn't agree that Lamar Jackson should have been the MVP this year. Like, we talked about that at the awards point. But pull up Josh Allen's numbers.
All right, I will. I genuinely think Josh Allen's numbers were 1,000 times better than what we saw from Lamar Jackson this season. Again, I could be wrong. I'm just pulling them up now. And so taking a look here at his 2023 season, he had 4,306 passing yards. He had 29 TDs to 18 interceptions.
So 700 more yards, 5 more touchdowns, and 11 more interceptions.
Correct.
Yeah. And that last one is why he falls behind Lamar Jackson. Because yes, Lamar Jackson didn't put up phenomenal numbers, but he protected the ball. You know, and then if we factor in the ground game as well, because both of those are mobile quarterbacks, they both probably had fairly similar touchdown numbers and running yards, I would bet.
Let me just pull back up Lamar Jackson's numbers, because taking a look here at his rushing numbers, because I didn't actually factor that in for that. So Lamar Jackson in his rushing this year, he had 821 rushing yards. He had 5 rushing touchdowns and 11 fumbles, and he lost 6 of them.
Ooh.
He lost 6 of them, so he had 11, but he only lost 6 of them, so he had 6 fumbles. I don't really give a shit about if you fumbled the ball. If you lost, no, he lost 6 of them.
Oh yeah, lost 6 of them. Sorry, so 6 fumbles.
I don't really care about the lost fumbles or how many fumbles that you actually had. I care about the lost. So Josh Allen, on the other hand, he had 524 rushing yards. He had 15 rushing touchdowns and 4 fumbles lost. So you look at Josh Allen, how many times he gave the ball away. He had 22 balls lost. You look at Lamar Jackson, he had, that is 13. So, yeah, it's a 7 margin difference, but Josh Allen had more passing touchdowns, and he had more rushing touchdowns. This is this is coming from a guy that has shit on Josh Allen hard for a lot of years, but I can't have Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I look at those two guys, I'm like, would I rather have Josh Allen as my starting quarterback or Lamar Jackson? 10 times out of 10, I'm picking Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah, me too, honestly. But just in feel, I put Lamar Jackson above him in the top 5 ranking. Like I said, I was feeling Josh Allen outside my top 5, but I couldn't think of another name off the top of my head, so that puts him into that 5th spot for me. But that's pretty common with you and I, though. You and I can usually agree on 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, and 5 is where we start to differ.
Who do you have as your number 1 wide receivers? Like what? Like if you had to, number 2.
Number 2, Tyreek Hill. Number 3, Des Bryant.
I think a fun thing that we should do for next week, and this is kind of given a little bit of a spoiler, is we go over each of the positions in the NFL and we kind of rank our top 5 and we compare them.
Well, let's narrow it down to the skill positions.
Yeah, obviously we're not going to talk about tackles.
Right guards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, or even top 5 defensive tackles. Like, I would say quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end.
Edge rushers.
Defense overall.
Edge rushers, corners. Those are your premier playmaking positions on the defense.
They are. Let's say top 10 defense.
Top 10 defensive players?
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, I can't even think of 5 corners off the top of my head.
Really?
Not unless I include, Steelers cornerbacks.
You can't name 5 cornerbacks in the NFL off the top of your dome that aren't
Off the top
Steelers?
of my dome? Probably not, no.
Jalen Ramsey,
Not
L'Jarius...
the 5 best. I could pick 5 randoms, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair
Yeah, I
enough.
could pick 5 randoms, but I couldn't tell you the 5 best for sure.
Okay, fair. But
Yeah.
a little bit of workshopping for next week.
Yeah.
That goes
And
live.
something for us to do, because we were honestly looking next week going, geez, we might have an off week next week.
That may be, but nice little
Right.
fun thing to do for sure. But that is a nice time for us to end it here. Thank you all so much for watching. For Sterling, I'm Brendan saying peace.